Did you know that right now, hundreds of brand new aircraft fresh off the assembly line, worth tens of millions of dollars each, are sitting idle on airport tarmacs around the world, simply because they have no engines to fly with? It sounds almost impossible, but it's the reality facing one of the most popular commercial aircraft families ever built, the Airbus A320neo. Welcome to the World Documentaries, where we unpack the stories that shape our world in ways most people never see coming. Today, we're diving deep into one of the most complex and quietly devastating crises in modern aviation, the engine shortage that has paralyzed Airbus, frustrated airlines, and left passengers wondering why their flights keep getting cancelled or delayed. This is not just a story about machines. It's a story about supply chains, accountability, and the enormous pressure that sits behind every single flight you take. A family of planes built for the future, the Airbus A320neo family, where neo stands for new engine option, was launched as a revolutionary leap forward in commercial aviation. Introduced in the early 2010s and entering service in 2016, the aircraft promised airlines up to 20% better fuel efficiency compared to its predecessors. Airlines around the world rushed to place orders, and it quickly became one of the best-selling commercial aircraft programs in history, with a backlog stretching into the thousands of jets. Powering much of this ambitious family is the Pratt Whitney Geared Turbofan engine, commonly known as the G. This engine was itself a marvel of engineering, using a revolutionary gearbox to spin the fan blades at a different speed from the turbine, making it quieter, cleaner, and more fuel efficient. On paper, everything looked perfect. In practice, however, the story took a very different and very turbulent turn. When cracks began to show, the problems with the Pratt Whitney GTF engine did not appear overnight. They crept in slowly, beginning with manufacturing defects and material contamination issues discovered in certain engine components. By 2023, Pratt & Whitney issued a formal acknowledgement that a significant number of GTF-powered aircraft would need their engines removed for inspection far sooner than originally scheduled. This triggered a wave of unplanned groundings that sent shockwaves through the airline industry worldwide. What made this situation especially painful was the sheer scale. Inspections revealed that powdered metal used in certain high-pressure turbine and compressor discs had been contaminated during the manufacturing process. The fix required pulling engines off wings, shipping them to maintenance facilities, and conducting lengthy overhauls, a process that takes months, not days. Suddenly, airlines that had invested billions in these modern fuel-efficient jets found themselves with fleets that couldn't fly. The numbers that tell the real story. Let's talk about the scale of this crisis, because the numbers are genuinely staggering. Throughout 2025, Airbus confirmed it had delivered over 790 commercial jets, a respectable figure on the surface. But beneath that headline, a significant portion of A320neo family deliveries were delayed by months due to engine unavailability. Aircraft were being completed at the factory only to wait engineless for Pratt & Whitney to supply the power plants they needed to actually fly. Take Turkish Airlines as a striking example. In November 2025, the carrier confirmed that 40% of its roughly 100 GTF-powered A320neo aircraft were out of service. That's 40% of a major part of its fleet sitting on the ground at one time. An analyst at the time suggested that number wasn't even the peak. It was expected to climb to around 50 grounded jets before any meaningful recovery could begin. For a major international airline, that level of fleet unavailability isn't just a logistical problem. It's a full-blown operational emergency. Airlines caught in the crossfire. Turkish Airlines is far from alone in this struggle. From the Americas to Asia Pacific and across Europe, carriers of all sizes have felt the sting of the GTF engine crisis. Spirit Airlines in the United States, Air New Zealand in the Pacific, and Wizz Air in Europe, one of the most GTF-dependent airlines on the planet, have all grappled with significant fleet groundings. Wizz Air, in particular, has been remarkably candid about its outlook, stating publicly that it does not expect a full resolution to arrive until the end of the decade. That's not a typo. The end of the decade. For an airline that has built its entire low-cost business model around the fuel savings and efficiency of the Neo family, that timeline is nothing short of catastrophic. Aircraft have reportedly spent over 300 consecutive days on the ground, stripped of their engines, while those same engines sit in a queue at an overhaul facility, waiting for spare parts that are themselves in short supply. The ripple effects on schedules, passenger confidence, and airline revenues have been enormous and ongoing. How airlines are fighting back faced with shrinking fleets and mounting pressure. Airlines have responded in different ways, each reflecting their size, financial strength, and strategic priorities. Some carriers have turned to the aircraft leasing market, securing older generation jets as temporary capacity solutions to keep routes operating and passengers moving. It's an expensive workaround, but for airlines with large networks and no time to waste, it has become a necessary one. Others have gone directly after Pratt & Whitney and Airbus for financial compensation, arguing that the disruption to their operations and the revenue losses that come with it deserve meaningful remuneration. Smaller carriers have taken even more drastic action. Australia's Air Austral, for example, chose to retire its GTF-affected aircraft entirely, opting to cut losses and transition to alternative equipment rather than wait indefinitely for a resolution. Every strategy carries trade-offs, but they all tell the same story. Airlines have been forced to make painful decisions because of a problem they did not create. Airbus in the hot seat for Airbus. This ongoing engine crisis presents a unique and uncomfortable challenge. The manufacturer does not build the GTF engine. That responsibility belongs entirely to Pratt Whitney. Yet Airbus bears the consequences when those engines fail to arrive on schedule or when delivered aircraft are grounded before they can serve passengers. As the airframe manufacturer, Airbus finds itself caught between its airline customers demanding their planes and an engine supplier struggling to meet demand. Airbus has confirmed that engine availability challenges are expected to persist well into the current year, with ongoing discussions with Pratt Whitney yielding no quick resolution. The manufacturer's yearly production targets and its ability to chip away at a backlog that has only grown thanks to a steady stream of new orders are directly constrained by how many engines Pratt Whitney can supply. For a company whose commercial success depends on delivering aircraft on time, this supply chain vulnerability has become one of the defining challenges of the decade. What comes next for aviation? So where does all of this leave us? The aviation industry has weathered crises before, from the pandemic's near-total shutdown to fuel price shocks and geopolitical turbulence. But the GTF engine saga is unique because it combines manufacturing complexity, supply chain fragility, and enormous financial stakes in a way that touches nearly every corner of commercial aviation. Pratt Whitney continues to ramp up its inspection and overhaul capacity, and there are signs of gradual improvement, but gradual is cold comfort for airlines, hemorrhaging revenue and passengers facing cancelled flights. The broader lesson here is one about the hidden architecture of modern aviation. When you board a flight, you trust that an almost incomprehensibly complex global supply chain has come together perfectly. The GTF crisis reminds us how fragile that system can be, and how the failure of a single critical component can cascade into delays, groundings, and disruption on a global scale. The skies may look clear up above, but down on the tarmac, the battle to keep the world's planes flying is very much still underway. Thank you so much for watching this episode of the World Documentaries. If this story opened your eyes to the hidden complexity behind modern aviation, please hit the like button. It truly helps us reach more curious minds like yours. Don't forget to subscribe to the World Documentaries so you never miss an episode. We cover the stories that shape our world, from engineering crises like this one, to geopolitical shifts, economic turning points, and the human stories behind the headlines. Now we want to hear from you. Have you personally experienced flight delays or cancellations that you now wonder might be connected to this engine crisis? Are you an aviation professional who has seen this situation up close? Drop your thoughts, experiences, and questions in the comments section below. We read every single one, and your perspective makes this community richer. See you in the next documentary. Stay curious.